Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Western eCrit powered by KISS and Zwift Community Live. My name is Jesper Anker, and today I'm joined by me. I am all alone today here, and I'm doing the broadcast tonight here at Zwift Community Live on the Western eCrit. We saw the Eastern eCrit earlier today over on the Zwift Facebook page, and now we're about to see the Western one here on Zwift Community Live. Of course, if you're wondering, where is my good friend and partner in crime, Wesley Salzberger? He is currently at the biggest bike convention in the world, which is Eurobike, where I'll be heading tomorrow. So I'll meet up with Wes tomorrow. I'll see if I can get a picture and put it in the Zwift Aussie page, because, I mean, it's pretty fun. I mean, it's not often that Wes, who lives in Tasmania, who lives down under, and Jesper, who is a Dane living in the UK, gets to actually meet up in the real world, not the fictive world of Richmond, which we're on today. By the way, look at those banners. The KISS banners look awesome tonight. So, 44 kilometers, I think we agreed on, is the actual distance of tonight's race. So, even though on SwiftPower.com, the title of the race, or the actual event description, is 41, I think it is, the distance, the total distance you'll be doing tonight is about 44. So, another 3 kilometers added on to your race tonight. We see John O'Bates is in here. We see Ruba Walsh. We see Anthony Ciano. All the common names, all the usual suspects. Also, Ben Simpson is in here, who is currently the only rider from the Western region who's qualified to the live e-racing finale in Melbourne. Is in here. I'm gonna share your secret, Ben. Ben raced the Eastern eCrit earlier today to try and see what it was like to race against the bigger guns, the guns of Aaron Dunn, Linton Savatsky, Ben Hill, Luke Ockerby, and well, you're just gonna have to look up the results over on SwiftPower.com to see how Ben Simpson fared up against those guys. But tonight we're taking on the flat loop here on the Richmond course. Of course, we don't usually see all that much here in Zwift racing. It has a close place in my heart because Peter Sagan won this race back in 2014, I think it was, 2015, in the most awesome fashion you can imagine. I mean, Sagan attacking away from Ebba Bosenhagen, Greg van Avermaet on that 32nd Street, or was it Governor Street? It was just awesome, and every time you're in Richmond, you get to emulate your inner Sagan. You get to channel that effort. Every single time you go up the hill, you can, dig in, you can dip deep, you can just have fun. And Zwift is all about riding your bike, getting your mind off the pain, and just trying to get that physical gain. It's a lot of fun, everybody. And if you're not already on Zwift, if you're not racing the eCrit, highly recommend you try it out. Of course, there's always the free trial. You got 7 days free of Zwift, or 50 kilometers, depending if you are a very fast rider that likes to just get 50 kilometers out of the way. You can ride with Classics trainer, you can ride with a smart trainer, you can use rollers, you can use exercise bikes such as a watt bike. I mean, there's all sort of different technologies out there, even treadmills. I mean, there's the Tax Magnum that you can use. So if you're on a Classics trainer, which is the typical Greg LeMond, if you're on a Tax Vortex, these things, all you need is a speed sensor and a cadence sensor, sorry. Whew, early start this morning. Speed sensor and cadence sensor, and you're good to go. That will hook up via Bluetooth in the game, and you're good to go on Zwift. So tonight here in the Western eCrit, it looks like we have a few guys who also raced the Eastern eCrit. I see Johan Gren in there from Sweden, who also raced earlier today in the Eastern race, got out there amongst the best. He's currently out there with the green jersey, I do believe, out on course. Of course, this is the Australian eCrit. Riders from Australia are eligible to gain points. Anyone not from Australia is not eligible to get points. I mean, yeah, it makes sense, guys. But if you're not from Australia, you're still eligible to race. I mean, we're not going to disqualify you. This is open to everybody. You can race, you can make up the numbers in the pack, you can get a good workout in. It's really all up to you. But at the end of the day, the competition comes down to who's the most consistent, the strongest, and the smartest Aussie rider from down under. So we'll see how it pans out. So far, Ben Simpson, Ruba Walsh, Richard Cook, Anthony Ciano. Ciano the other day sent me a picture of his setup on Instagram, and actually, he didn't send me. He posted a picture and he tagged me in it, and it's a very interesting setup nonetheless. And yeah, whew. I'm gonna be all alone today here in the broadcast, so I did prepare a Red Bull. It's currently noon British time, and I knew if Wes was watching right now, he'd go, Jesper, Red Bull. I don't know why I'm making him Russian or some sort of like Eastern European. He's gonna go, Jesper, oi mate, why are you getting that? Nah, that's Christopher Walken. Why are you getting a Red Bull, Jesper? It's too early in the day. Come on. I miss you, Wes. I miss you. Okay, Wes and I have been doing these broadcasts for what? 10, 12 weeks, 3 months in a row, every Tuesday for the last 3 months. It is insane. I need to get this right now. I'm tired. I'm sorry, guys. Workflow, talking. Have you ever tried to talk like continuously for a long period of time? You just run out of oxygen. Yes, it sounds stupid, but like, you just get, yeah, try it. Like, I know this has nothing to do with the eCrit, but we're on the Richmond flat course, which is flat. Nothing really happens on it. It's pretty much a guaranteed sprint near the end, so we're just gonna touch in and out a few. We're gonna use today as a transition stage. I know the riders out there in racing right now, they're not seeing this as a transitional stage. I mean, they're putting out the watts, they're putting in the efforts. But here in the commentator booth, as we're down one man, we're just gonna act like this is a transitional stage until we get to the pointy end of the race. But Wes and I have been doing this for the last 3 months. We've been having so much fun in each other's company, and it's just it's a dynamic duo. Now we're down to a very simple single in Jesper. So I do miss Wes. Wes is currently at Eurobike trying to test out all the new equipment. He did reveal last week that he's now officially employed by Zwift. So Wes is actually now a full-time colleague of mine, which I'm really excited about, because that means I now have more of a reason to talk to Wes on a daily basis. And I'm sure you, the viewer out there, or even if you're racing tonight and you are listening to this, let me just issue an apology, because this is going to be the longest monologue in the world as we're carrying this broadcast tonight, as we're just trying to, you know, share a bit of that Aussie calm. See, you guys have been trying to teach me Aussie slang. What's the Aussie slang for, like, Hakuna Matata? Like, oh, chill, bro. Like, you know, in California they do this. Like, what's the Aussie word for that? I do have, let me hit over on Facebook. I do have the page open over on Facebook. Anthony Vegan Porsche should have got me on the broadcast, Jesper. Richard Cook is out with the flu. Actually, Porsche, would you be, I mean, it'd be interesting if you want to get on here. I mean, there is technically a possibility of you getting on here. Let me try and figure out the logistics of the, because I know you have a good microphone, you have a good setup. Hey, mate, you serious? I mean, I would love to have you on for this broadcast, Anthony, because this, I mean, we've got 30 people watching over on Facebook right now, and I do see that number coming down a tiny bit. We need to get somebody on here with a bit of knowledge, a bit of wisdom from the racing scene. And I think Vegan Porsche raced the Eastern race earlier today, and it could be fun to have him come on here, talk about the course, talk about his racing experience. I've spoken to Anthony in the past. Yeah, Anthony, hit up your Facebook message. There's a Facebook message your way. If you are serious about jumping on, mate, I will set you up in just a second. So give us a second, guys, while we just set up the details on our end. So here you go, Anthony Vegan Porsche. Take a look at your Facebook messages. All you've got to do is go to that webpage, put in that code, and then you should be fine to getting in here. So I'm fully serious, mate. I am fully committed to having you on, because Anthony Vegan Porsche is call him Vegan. It's just his middle. It's his name he uses on Zwift. It's his synonym. But I really like talking to Anthony. I talk to him on a regular basis. We both catch up in each other's lives. Anthony's a better racer than me, but I'm an aspiring racer. I want to get better. I want to get stronger. And the only way I know how to do that is actually by talking to people that know what they're doing. And Anthony Vegan Porsche is one of those people. So I see that John O'Bates is saying might as well go out swinging tonight. So we've got 3 races left before the live finale, and if we're looking over on the West standings, John O'Bates is down in 6th place, who's 20 points behind Richard Cook, who is not racing tonight. So if John O'Bates won tonight, he'd get 20 points on Richard Cook, while Mikey H, oh, excuse me, is out on course. I think Anthony Porsche might be fiddling with the microphone, trying to get everything up and running. It's very interesting. In the meanwhile, also, it looks like the Vuelta a España stage is getting underway. So if you are in Australia and you're staying up to watch this right now, you can always tune on your second monitor or your phone. You can always get out the updates for the Vuelta a España, because today's going to be a breakaway. And you really want to be interested in if any Australian riders gets into the breakaway today. I mean, Chris Hamilton could get in the breakaway. There are potentially Jack Haig, if he gets in the break, he could win. So very interesting to see. Have you been following the Vuelta a España? If so, let me know down in the comment section below. I am reading it. So it's all interesting. 7.5 kilometers into the race so far. John O'Bates is the one leading the charge at the front. Ben Simpson is in here. Ciano is doing well. You got pack fodder. You got Johan Gren. You got a few pedestrians from Japan. You got USA, China, and it looks like we have a very condensed and reduced bunch already out on course. They're racing 44 kilometers in total. It's going to be about an hour of racing, and it's not going to be easy for these guys as they're putting out high wattage to stick in. But the course is flat, so if you want to attack, it's going to be on one of the flatter sections, which means you're going to have to put out a really high effort to try and go on to the attack. It's got to be very, very decisive. It's got to be, you know, it's got to be what John O'Bates and Ciano are trying to do right now. Is they're trying to go onto the attack. And here goes John O'Bates, popping the featherweight. And now Ciano is with him at 11 watts per kilo. And Ciano, he wants to go onto the attack early as well, but he's actually just marking 11 watts per kilo and down again. I would love to have a webcam video of Anthony Ciano doing that attack, because going from 0 watts per kilo to 11 watts per kilo like that is not easy, because you've got to fight against the resistance of the trainer, the resistance of the bike. Because if you're riding outside in the real world, going from 50 cadence to 100 cadence is not that easy if you are in a heavier gear. And I think Anthony Ciano is spinning quite a high gear at this moment in time, as Ben Simpson is sitting now at the front. Already raced one race today. We're seeing how he recovers from that race, and he races again now. Aww, I can't wait to go to Eurobike tomorrow. I can't not wait. Got to see all the new and interesting features that are coming out in the world of cycling. I mean, I know Tax is there, Wahoo is there, Elite is there. I mean, what are you most looking forward to in the cycling world? It's Eurobike. It is the week where all the new gadgets and gadgets will be announced. It's the week where everything new in the world of cycling for the year to come will be announced. And who knows? I'll be there with Zwift. Who knows if we have anything to announce? So stay tuned for that information. As it's Eurobike. It is Eurobike. I am so hyped I get to go, because I get to see Shane Miller, I get to see Simon Schofield, I get to see Wesley Salzberger, I get to see all my other industry colleagues that I've met over the last few months. It's so much fun. And you can compare it to the eCrit finale that we're going to go to in Melbourne on September the 23rd at the Rafa Cycling Club, because we don't always get together. I mean, you guys the racers and us the commentator. I see Anthony Vegan Porsches now in here. But we don't always get to see each other, don't always get together. But we do get to do that on the 23rd of September. Anthony, can you hear me?
I can hear you indeed, Jesper. How you going?
Good. So this is actually, let me just fix this, because I want to show you on the broadcast. But we've got Anthony Porsche in here. You raced earlier today, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, thanks. Yeah, feeling pretty good. It was a brutal race as usual, but everyone was out in force and it was good fun. So glad it's over.
Glad it's over. I mean, how are you feeling so far? Because you are within a shout of winning. Well, within getting an invitation, let's say that, which is winning in my book.
Yeah, so I think I'm currently coming fourth in the eCrit series. So far, so good. It has been getting, I would say, harder and harder each week as the competitors keep coming out in force. So, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
How'd you like the Ben Hill and Sam Hill combination in the Eastern eCrit today?
Impressive. Yeah. I mean, again, like, you know, you're just getting one guy after the other, attack after attack. It makes for good racing, that's for sure.
So, guys, the gentleman joining me in the broadcast is Anthony Vegan Porsche. It just sounds good, by the way. The way it just flows out there, man. You could have been a rapper with that name. But Anthony Porsche, who races the Eastern eCrit, who is a very, very capable rider. How much have you done outside in the real racing scene? What are your results out there?
Well, I mean, I'm still work in progress, I guess, like everyone, well, most people out there. But, you know, I had a few results in a lot of criterium racing. My road racing has improved over the last year or so, but I'm still very new to road racing, as it is such a competitive sport. But I get out amongst it and have a dig when I can, so...
I'm glad to hear that. So, the Western guys now, we see John O'Bates attacking again off the front. You raced this course for the first time ever in the eCrit series today. What is your opinion of the Richmond flat course?
Well, I think it says it all. Flat course. It is definitely a flat course, and I mean, look, it was different, and we hadn't raced the Richmond course before, so I guess it was unique in its own to have that thrown in amongst the event, considering we've spent so much time doing the London course and then the Volcano course. So it was definitely different because no one really knew. I mean, even the finish line was a bit of a mystery, to be honest.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
I think there was someone saying there was 500 meters to go, but we actually had 5K to go, but I'm not sure who that was. No, it was good. It was something different, and I think that's what we needed. We needed something different, a bit of a change up. I think everyone had fun out there.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, Pat and I had a lot of fun broadcasting this because it's a very different course. Like, it's just so fast-paced. Despite the watts not being that high, I mean, that's just from our point of perspective, but the pace was still 50 kilometers an hour. Did you feel that it was easier to draft tonight?
I would say that the draft effect probably was easier, but, I mean, it's hard to say because there's no elevation in the Richmond course, especially on a smart trainer. There is really not a lot of force going onto the legs. And what I noticed tonight was that I felt very comfortable. My wattage was still high, my heart rate was still high, but I didn't feel that stress on the muscles in the legs. And I think that's because it is a flat course. So definitely a course for an attack, but then again, long, straight roads, everyone's got a clear line of sight, so very hard to get away.
Definitely, but we're watching the Western eCrit where the numbers are a bit lower than the Eastern one, perhaps due to the time zone. But we got Anthony Ciano, we got, I was almost saying Porsche there once again. Anthony Ciano's in here, John O'Bates, Richard Cook is out tonight with a fever. We've got Ben Simpson, who's already raced the race tonight, and Ruben Walsh is in here. Jeffrey Keel deciding to, well, since he's ineligible to actually make the final due to family commitments, he's not racing the Western race anymore, and he's decided to opt out of it, which is really a shame because we just got so accustomed to seeing Jeff attack off the front and just hammer it down. You've raced with Jeff. What's it like having a locomotive like that out on course?
Super strong rider. Very, very strong rider. And once he gets going, there's no bringing him back. So it is a shame not to have him competing in the West Coast Crit here, but also as a fellow teammate as well. It's a bit disappointing not to have him get to the final event. So a big loss for this side of Australia, and yeah, it's a bit of a shame that he's not in there. But he's definitely a strong rider, and I'm sure we haven't seen the last of him.
I want to hear your thoughts because we picked up. I say we're both part of Team Vision, Anthony and I. We picked up Ollie Jones as a part of a squad. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, again, it's another very impressive rider for sure. And, I mean, obviously he's not part of the point series because he is from New Zealand, but having him in amongst this race, and he has been racing it for quite some time, as you said in the broadcast, that if he was competing, if he was an Aussie, he would be coming second overall in the point series. So, but look, he's a great personality in the group, in the bunch, to be attacking and putting the pressure and putting the hammer down and really stretching out riders. So it's been great to have him there. Obviously, he's in a league of his own amongst a lot of us, but I think that's a good thing because it really challenges some of the other stronger riders to push them a little bit harder and a little bit further.
I'm seeing John O'Bates tonight put up 5 watts per kilo just trying to attack, but Ruben Walsh and Ciano having none of that. In the chat tonight, we have Maria Ciano saying, "Go Ciano, you can do it," with a bunch of emojis behind it. Mick Polymer is saying, "Go Jono." Got a bit of support coming his way as well out on course. So I think it's 44 kilometers in total. That sprint finish, Anthony. Walk me through it because it's weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very long road. So you've come down this main road, and then obviously hook a U-turn, and then it's a final maybe 400-500 meters to the finish. So you can see the finish line on the other side of the road, and you're belting down a very flat, very straight, long road, and then it swings around, and you're still on the gas. So if anyone tuned into the East Coast, we had a sprint from Wyatt. I think people were really starting to put the hammer down around 2 kilometers out, and I think everyone was a little bit antsy and, and was unsure. But it's a challenging sprint. I mean, I guess it's something we haven't experienced before in the eCrit. So the riders are got something ahead of them, that's for sure.
But I think that's accredited to the course. I mean, just out of curiosity, Anthony, when's the last time you rode on Richmond prior to today?
I can't really remember. Yeah, for sure. It's I mean, it's only, what is it, once a month, this course?
Twice a month. 2 Wednesdays in a month, I do believe.
Yep. Okay. So it's very easy to miss this course. I mean, I have ridden on this course, and you know, you will get a chance to get on the course. But as far as racing, that's another story. It's not too often that you will race on this course. So it was a challenge, definitely a challenge.
This is fun though, because London, Volcano, like on Watopia, everyone has done those races 10, 15, 20 times. They know all the ins and outs. Richmond flat course, nobody has really done it more than maybe 5 or 6 at most, and those are the most experienced riders. Then when you go into the sprint, everyone's like, well, how long can I hold this wattage? Well, I guess somebody else is going. I've got to go. He knows what he's doing. And you end up having this effect where everybody is going way too far out. Some fade like Ben Hill, and others take the glory like Linton Savetsky. That was fun to watch though, Anthony.
Yeah, it was a, like I said, a brutal sprint, but very impressive to see those riders. I mean, I myself got caught out, and it was just like, what is going on? You're looking at the distance, you're looking at the power, and you're looking at these riders just flying by, and you're thinking, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it, and surprisingly, they make it. So it's very impressive. Hats off to those riders. But again, it's a mystery race. It's a mystery course. So anything can happen. Anyone can do anything at any time, because if you haven't raced it before, hey, throw in a move somewhere odd, and people will be like, "What's going on?" You know, and you might pull it off.
Ciaran, is that how you pronounce your name? Well, sorry if I butchered it, but McPhillips from Ireland is saying, "Hey guys, I'm watching in from Ireland. Any tips on the best turbo trainers for beginners?" Anthony, best turbo trainer for a beginner? What would you recommend?
Anything that's within your budget, I would say, would be the first thing I would say. I mean, I guess it comes down to what you want to achieve. If you do spend a lot of time indoors, I've personally had Le Mans Revolution, which was a dumb trainer. That was my first trainer, and I really rate that trainer for, you know, price-wise. If you can get a second-hand one, very good price. But they are very noisy. Road feel, fantastic, but yeah, earplugs for that one for sure. But I also have a Tax Neo, which is one of the high-end smart trainers, and I definitely rate that as well. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it comes to your price point, what you're after there.
I like that the trainer industry has come down to, like, everything is valid. Everything is valid, essentially. There's no such thing as a bad turbo trainer. They all serve their different purposes, and that's really cool for a game like Zwift. I mean, the software. Everyone can get on, depending, like, no matter how much money you're willing to spend or your level of athleticism. That was just a tongue twister. Depending on how strong your legs are, it doesn't matter. If you want to get the very, very top end, there are the Elite Drivo, the Wahoo Kicker, and the Tax Neo. They are the 3 main juggernauts of the trainer industry, very well known, and they all have different purposes. Like the Neo is very quiet. If you're racing Richmond on the Neo, you're going to get the road feel, the cobbles. The Wahoo Kicker, I mean, it's a choice of Team Sky. It's got probably perhaps one of the best road feels out there. The Elite Drivo, I mean, it's like going back in time to the 1990s when you've got the old school, you know, when you go to the gym and you've got that thing looking like it's R2-D2's brother, but it's still very, very good. It's just, they all serve a purpose, but yeah. The Le Mans Revolution, I've not tried yet, Anthony.
Yeah, it's a very good road feeling trainer. That's how the best thing I could say about it. I know Shane Miller, he's a big fan of the Le Mans Revolution. He's done a few YouTube videos, so if anyone wanted to check that out, go over to Shane Miller's channel there.
But I think the reason why, this is just me with a really like broad assumption, the reason why you guys like it is because you grew up with it. Like it's from your days, correct?
Well, I mean, yeah, I know locally that a lot of people were rating that sort of trainer and stuff. So for me to get it, it was just one of those things. I mean, there's 3 in our family. We have 3 of those trainers in our family, so we're not short of them.
Nice. McPhillips says, think I'll go with the Tax Flux. Thanks, guys. That's a great option right there, McPhillips. Lee Goshen saying, just wrote this course for the 2nd time. The UCI course is brutal on 100%. 100% trainer sensitivity is what's being referenced here. And Anthony, you know how it feels like going up, 32nd Street or 23rd Street, sorry, Governor Hill, Libby Hill. At 100%?
Yeah, no, thank you. I like to keep my trainer right in the middle at 50, and I think that's the safe zone.
It is. Have you ever done the Epic KOM at 100% trainer responsibility?
No, well, I've only ever tested out 100%, and I'm not on the Epic KOM, but I don't think I'd really enjoy that very much. But hey, it's something maybe in the future I could give it a go.
I was stupid enough to do a forfeit once, where the forfeit was to do the Epic KOM at 100%. I grinded like 40 cadence, 40 RPM all the way up, because 7% was actually 7%, and out in the real world, 7% hurts. 8% hurts if you don't have the right gearing.
For sure. Yeah, you definitely need that right gearing. So heads up to anyone who wants to go 100%, make sure you have the correct gearing.
Can you imagine somebody changing the gearing on their bike just because they're doing 100% on a trainer? I mean, kudos. That is next level commitment to the cost. Good job, guys. And we're halfway through the race now as well. 4 more laps to go out on course. What did you make of the 8 lap? I think it's 8 laps tonight. It's 1 more lap than the usual 7.
Yeah, it was a long race. I think it was around 57 minutes that we completed the race in. It's a long duration. It definitely is a long duration. But very similar to the London course. I think that's around 50, 52, 53 minutes or so.
What's your favorite course?
I would say it's a mix between the Volcano and the London Classic. Obviously, the Volcano loop has some ups and downs, so that sort of works slightly in my favour because I am a lighter rider. But I still do enjoy London. I think maybe one too many times up that hill there. But, yeah, they're both great courses in their own right, I guess.
I think nothing comes close to the excitement of the Volcano. Like, the London course is great. Richmond was really fun to watch today. But there's something about that Volcano course that you never know how it's going to pan out. I remember one week where WP Taz broke away. They had Ockerby, Dunn, and Nazi in a breakaway. That has never happened on any of the other courses. And that only happened because the Volcano course is so difficult to manage. Because as you mentioned, it's 4 kilometers of like 60, 70 meters of elevation every course or every lap around. And it's just tough. Like, you get your heart rate spiked up. You do not get time to get it down again. It just keeps spiking, and it spikes again, and it spikes again. And you're like, does this ever stop? So it's good fun.
Yeah, it is good fun. It's a very taxing course for sure. Very taxing. So it's got its own challenges. And I guess, I mean, depending on what course we're going to end up in the finale, whether it be London or the Volcano, each one, I guess, will be challenging. But well, hey, it could be Richmond. That's true. So we'll see how we go. That
would be just a punch from the left side there. If they said, hey guys, you ready for this? We're going to race Richmond, 8 laps to the finale. You only done it once and you really messed it up, guys. Let's do it again.
Well, I can say that if we end up on Richmond, I'm going to have to work on my 2-minute power for sure, because if we're going to sprint from 2 kilometers to go, look out.
Oof. Talking about sprinting from a long ways out, we got Anthony Ciano and John O'Bates in a move here. 5 seconds back to the pack. So what, you see this often in the Eastern eCrit. There's a break 6-7 seconds up the front. What do you do, Anthony? Do you chase it down, or do you let somebody else do the work?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the first thing to do is, I mean, depending on your position, really, who you are, where you are in the overall points, what your objective is throughout the race. I think that when you see a move go away, the best thing to do is first see who's in that move. See the names, see if they're familiar names and where they're positioned in the overall standings. and keep a close eye on the watts per kilo. Sometimes the best thing to do is not panic too much, because if you do have larger numbers in the pack at the back, that you can get a bit of a pack effect that will move along slightly faster than a smaller group. So most of the time, the best thing to do is not panic and maybe just up the power little by little and see how close you can get to them.
That's exactly what they did, and they've caught the breakaway again. It's all back together now. Ciano and John O'Bates, they're really trying today to drop Rupert and drop Ben Simpson out here further down in the pack. So they're going to try to do their best. Ciano, of course, the pre-race favorite, seeing as he's been the strongest lately, and now he goes onto the attack as a Woo of Innovation Cycling goes onto the attack, popping an aero power up. Ciano trying to bridge across, but so is John O'Bates, hot on his wheels, and Ben Simpson further down as well. And it looks like Ruben Walsh is not able to react to this just yet, as he's sitting down in the pack and he's just hoping that it all gets brought back together. So Anthony, we hear this often from Wes and I, and even Pat earlier today, that we've got these pedestrians in here. We got the Swedish, the Chinese, the Canadian, the Americans, you name it. How do you feel? How do you go about like racing when these guys are technically not eligible to get points, but they still affect the race? How do you handle that?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, everyone's allowed to enter the eCrit and join the event, which is, I think it's a fantastic thing. It does sometimes confuse you, because if you see somebody move up the road, you know, your focus is going to have to shoot to the right side just to make sure that what country they are coming from. I think sometimes it can work in other people's favors in a breakaway. If somebody that's not part of the actual event, they can get a bit of a free ride, but I guess that's all part of the game. You know, it adds to the effect. I mean, we have the draft boost, the aero boost, the feather power up and things like that. So you've got these other dynamics in the game. So I guess you can look at it just like using a power up that people from another outside country is like using a power up. If they make an attack and you can get on that wheel, use it to your advantage and go for it.
I mean, it's quite realistic as well as in real life. I mean, don't you? Countless times have you raced and suddenly a bus comes out of nowhere and you just suddenly draft that bus to the finish line. It happens all the time, right?
Sure, for sure. Yeah, you got to take it while you can.
I love it though, because it is a part of the race and it's allowed. And the thing is, it's consistent. It's been allowed for the last 20 races, and it'll be allowed for the next 2 races as well. So the rules are the rules. You just gotta bend yourself to the rules so you can actually get the most out of them, as long as you stay within the rules. But that's the way you gotta race. I mean, that's honestly the way you've got to race. At the end of the day, there's also SADA, Zwift Anti-Doping Agency, as they're known as. So if you do put out an unreal effort, like a total anomaly, somebody will be knocking on the door and they'll go, you know what? It's time that we put some liquid into this cup, and we see just exactly what you've been eating and drinking these last few days. Have you ever been approached by them, Anthony?
No, not yet. I fortunately, I don't know whether it's fortunately or unfortunately, but I haven't produced that sort of wattage yet, so I'm not under scrutiny yet. But we'll see how we go. Maybe one day I might go over that line and I might be tested. Might get that knock on the door.
How does it affect you to know that guys like Aaron Dunn are SADA approved? Guys like Aaron Dunn, Cameron Roberts, I think a few more in the Eastern eCrit are SADA approved?
Oh, look, it's fantastic, and I love that side of Zwift, that you have that in place, that there are riders that can put out really legitimate high numbers, and they have to go through a little bit of scrutineering. Yeah, scrutiny, just to get that viewed and say, hey, is it legit? And yes, it is. And then once that's done, they get that verification, which is great.
It really adds to the integrity of the race. It's a word I really like using for these races, because it's based on the honor system. Like, we can only see the virtual avatar, but there's still a bit of integrity to the race. I mean, John O'Bates, fantastic rider. Anthony Ciano, amazing rider. Ben Simpson has hired a coach halfway through the racing series to get better and better and better. I mean, we're all pushing each other to become better racers, and that is the core, just the core feeling of the eCrit. It's that everyone is trying to get stronger, get better together, and that's. I hope next year that the eCrit community stays together, because now, Anthony, you guys are heading into summer, which is totally weird, by the way, as we're heading into winter, and you're going to go outside. And I hope that everyone that's raced the eCrit will share some of their results on the Zwift Aussie page and be like, hey, I raced the eCrit for 20 weeks during the winter. I got my first victory the other week, thanks to you guys. I mean, I really hope I see that, Anthony.
I think you definitely will. I mean, even when I turned up to the Zwift event, the last Zwift event that you had held in Melbourne, just meeting people that you've raced alongside in the virtual world of Zwift, and to meet them in person and to talk about racing on Zwift, racing in the real world. There's a very big community, and I think it's fantastic, and it's only going to grow. So definitely from the eCrit, we're going to see a lot more people out in the real world that can talk about their results, whether it's in the virtual world or in the real world. I mean, see, we're coming into the summer season soon, which is our criterium season. So I'm coming from winter eCrit on Zwift indoors to a summer season outdoors. So,
that should mean that you're carrying form. Like, you should have a massive advantage in the first month of racing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Zwift and riding indoors, I think, is a very difficult and taxing thing on the body, but it definitely produces good numbers, good power, and good fitness and form. I mean, you can see it like these guys riding along now. You can just see week in, week out, they're just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's fantastic.
Like, from my own perspective, I'm really excited because my last race was last Saturday, and I'm now heading into my first ever Zwift off-season. And I have no intention of slowing down. I want to keep this up. I want to work out. I want to race on Zwift. Then come January, February, when the first races start, everyone else is going to be, knocking off those Christmas, New Year's extra kilos and beers and wine and whatever. I plan on showing up and just upgrading. Like, I'm just going to go from Cat 4 to Cat 3 to Cat 2, Cat 1, Cat E, before anyone else realizes, hey, it's spring. We're ready to race.
Yeah, why not?
It's a Zwift effect. It really is. There's no excuse anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And I think everyone experiences it.
I heard an interview the other day with Stephen Cummings. Might be a new name if you're from Australia, but he's a British road and time trial champion. He's won a few stages in the Tour de France. He said in an interview that Zwift is the reason he never misses a workout anymore. In the past, when it was raining outside, he would half-ass a workout on the turbo trainer and just get junk miles in. Now, he goes on Zwift, and either he's chasing up an epic KOM or he's doing a structured workout. There's actually a purpose to jumping on that godforsaken stupid little wahoo kicker or whatever you've been dreading for the last 5 years because you just hate it. Now you don't.
Yeah, look, that's the beauty about Zwift, is it really brings a whole different dynamic to riding indoors, and especially with the race scene, and as we see here with the eCrit, I mean, this is huge. It's been running for over 6 months, 6 months now?
No, it's been running since April. So somebody do the math. 20 weeks of racing, that is 5 months.
5 months, so yeah, and we still have another 3 races to go, I think, so
3 including the finale. So 2 after this one, and then the finale on the 23rd. That is 6 months of racing!
Yeah. So,
wow.
And to see like the riders turn up week in, week out, and the numbers is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, that's good to see.
I hope next year that we bring back the eCrit series, because then we're going to have all the storylines lined out, and we're going to have new riders join the pack, and by then, hopefully, I'm still hoping, like, I may work for Zwift, but I don't have much influence in the actual game. I work in this department talking to you, the lovely and awesome viewer, but I want to see, like, wind and weather play an actual role in racing, because today in Vuelta a España, it's raining a storm. I want to see the same thing in this. So they're on cobblestones right now. Anthony, how tricky is it to race on wet cobblestones?
I mean, I haven't had much experience racing on cobbles in general, but I can imagine that racing on wet cobbles would be very, very difficult.
It's impossible. So when I did the Tour Flanders Sportive last year, it was still raining in the morning, and I did some of those cobble bergs on slippery wet conditions, and your wheels just have no traction. Both your front and your back wheel, they're just spinning out while you're trying to spin a cadence. It is so difficult, but imagine having that next level on Zwift. I'm a strong advocate for that. I know also, at some point we're going to have a velodrome, right? Indoor. Australians love that, don't they? Track?
Yeah, I mean, tracks, yeah, it's pretty decent. We get some numbers in the city. Track's still pretty big here, so that'd be very interesting. That's a great idea.
Would you be, what would be your discipline in track? Because there's like Chiron, there's the sprint, there's the individual pursuit, team pursuit, 200-meter TT, scratch, point race. What would you be good at?
I mean, look, I'm a very light rider. That's sort of not my style whatsoever. But I think whatever it would be, short and sharp. I think that's probably all I could do. Just something not too long duration, not too short, just in the middle.
So criterium is essentially what you're describing. Get a crit on the velodrome.
Yeah, I mean, if we get a crit on the velodrome, then maybe I might be able to hold on.
It's a scratch race. That's essentially what you are describing. So a scratch race is an hour of racing usually, and then it's just one big race. First over the finish line wins after an hour.
That's it.
Man, that'd be fun. That would be. But we can all dream. I mean, Zwift is a game. It's got unlimited possibilities. It doesn't take millions of dollars like it would outside. If I wanted a velodrome in my garden, it would take years and years of planning. I don't think it would be in Zwift. But this is, again, just Jesper, the live streaming guy, who hopes that the almighty god, John Mayfield, hears this and goes, that's a brilliant idea. Let's get working on it. A man can dream. 14 Ks to go. We got John O'Bates and Sienna. They're about 14 seconds out in the breakaway. They're working well together. When you're in the breakaway, Anthony... Sorry?
They're really holding that gap there.
But the thing is, when you're in the breakaway on Zwift, how do you take turns? How do you rotate at the front?
Well, I mean, for me, it's a lot more difficult because I am a lighter rider. So when I'm trying to actually get in front and pull a turn, I have to produce a higher watts per kilo, definitely on the flat roads. But if you're very similar matched in weight, you can easily just get that draft and drop the watts per kilo. And then when it's your turn to go in front, just simply up your power and your avatar will move in front of the other one. And then if they're smart enough to click on, as we see right now, they're just doing that move. They're doing that changeover right there. Perfect timing. Thanks, guys. And, and now the roles reverse. Get a bit of a recovery at the back. Person on the front's going to, spend that little bit more energy. And then when they're done, swap again. And just keep that momentum going. Like keep that motion and hopefully keep that gap where it's at.
It's a very difficult thing to master on Zwift because there are no controls of positioning, of like movement. The only way to actually control that is your legs, is the watts. So when you let go, he goes to the back. When you push down, he goes to the front. But it's still, what ends up happening a lot of the time is that both the riders will just be side by side pushing the exact same watts, which is really, really stupid, but there's nothing you can do about it because it's such a difficult technique to master.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Zwift is a game. So you are pedaling, you're cycling at home, but it does have a different dynamic to the real world. So you've got to learn the dynamics of what it takes to keep that smooth motion so you can not overshoot somebody or not fall off the wheel too easily and keep that flow going. So yeah, it's something to work on for sure. And I guess when we see really fit riders that aren't used to Zwift, come into the platform, sometimes they struggle just because they're not used to the dynamic of how things work.
Oh, I remember. So in addition to CVR, in addition to the eCrit, there's the CVR, which is a community-run event by Frank Garcia and the Team Experimental guys. Really fun event to watch and follow from the sidelines. But there was this race in Las Vegas where it was Sandoval. It was a Mexican rider who was like the strongest guy I've ever seen on Zwift before I saw Ian Bibi the other day. But Sandoval, on the race, would consistently put out 7 watts per kilo and kill himself. But because everyone else was drafting him, it made no difference. It's the equivalent of going in a crit race and taking every lap on the front and just hammer it down. And then the final lap, you look over your shoulder and you go, "You guys still here? What?" So, I mean, watts aren't everything, and it all comes down to technique, skill, and some brain power.
For sure. Yeah, I remember watching that myself. It was it was painful to watch, to be honest. Really stretching it out. I feel sorry
for the guy because he's a racer. He's strong. He won the white jersey, the young competition, and some American really big like pro continental race. But on Zwift, he got outfoxed by some of the best and brightest.
For sure. And that's something that I guess once you get on Zwift, you've really got to spend some time learning the dynamics of racing and the draft effect and things like that. And also positioning of the way the course works, turning corners, a slight uphill, slight downhill, and things like that. So paying attention to the data that you receive, and that's the beauty about Zwift. It tells you everything. You know, we can see how long we've been racing for, how long we've been, how far we've been going, how fast we're going, the gradient, people's watts per kilo, heart rate, all that stuff. So it's fantastic.
Do you think sometimes it tells you too much information?
Look, sometimes I think when you're on your limit, I think sometimes naturally you just zone out. You know, you can you just focus on you. But yeah, I mean, look, sometimes I guess when you're in the hurt box, maybe sometimes you might see what other people are doing, and it might frustrate you because you're like, that guy's just too strong. Or but you know, it's like anything.
We've seen scenarios in real life. Jesper Stuyven, a rider for Trek Segafredo, won a stage in the previously known as the Nico Tour, now the Brinkbank Tour. He won a stage, but after the stage, there was actually camera footage of his SRM, and he had like blocked out his watts. He had taken a black piece of tape and put it over his watts because he didn't want to know how much he was actually putting out. Is that a real thing? Do people actually do that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's very off-putting because, as we know, cycling is not always about how strong you are in your legs. It's a mental game, and I think sometimes it can be off-putting seeing numbers that you know at your limit. And if you look at that, and then your mind, the little man in the back of your head, starts saying, "Hey, you know, we're in that red zone there. Look out! You know, maybe we should back it off." Sometimes you need to just push him aside and say, "No, I can go a little bit further." So, by blocking that out, I mean, I know you mentioned not looking at your heart rate. I think you said.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think that's
suffer, Anthony, I take my heart rate monitor off. I just completely take it off.
Yeah.
So, I just don't want to.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I can understand that. I mean, most of the time when I race, I try not to pay attention too much to that, especially in short, sharp races, you know, because at the end of the day, it's all about holding that wheel. And the best thing to do is focus on the wheel and tell yourself, don't let it go. Don't let it go. Just hold it.
See, I've stopped doing it. This was Jesper of the past who could be a bit of... This was when I used to live stream my own races over on YouTube, and I would have 50 to 60 people yelling at me in the chat for doing stupid things, and they would just annoy me, and I'd just take it out in the heart rate monitor. But nowadays, you keep it on because it's actually a really valid tool. So we're looking at John O'Bates. He's at 173. He maxes out at 155, 186. So he's really in the hurt zone right now. But he can use that knowledge to know, where am I right now? Do I need to go harder? Do I need to rest up? Do I need to do whatever? In the real world, it's the same thing. Like, sometimes you can feel like you're blowing out of your butt, but you look down and you see your heart rate is way below, and you're like, oh, I'm actually feeling good today. Let's give it a go. So it's just all this data, or data, as you say down in Australia. It's relevant for racing, and there's a reason why Sky and Froome are the best team in the world right now. It's because they know how to make the most out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And we've come into a totally new era of training and fitness. Everyone majority of people now will own a power meter and own a heart rate monitor. So they're fantastic training tools, and we get to see what we're doing in real time and use it as a training tool, and then also into the race world. So we know our numbers. You know, if we're coming up to a hill climb, we know that, hey, it's going to be about 10 minutes. I know I can hold this power. So, you know, I'm going to go for it. Or in a crit, you know, if you're going to do a breakaway, you know that you can sustain a certain amount of wattage for a certain amount of time just to make that gap, things like that. So definitely very handy tools that we have these days.
But in a race, I don't think watts matter as much, because you mentioned it earlier. It's all about hanging on to that wheel. I mean, you can have the watts displayed on your SRM, on your Garmin, on your Wahoo Element, but at the end of the day, if you can't hold the gap, if you can't actually bridge across, it doesn't matter how much you're putting down. It doesn't matter how much you're hurting. Like, it's all comes down to the physical effort that you're putting out in the moment. It's all good for training and analyzing afterwards, which I know you're really keen at doing. But in the actual race scenario, if you can't hold the wheel, you can't hold the wheel.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, I think those tools in any racing situation, they're only going to come into play when you're really making a significant move that that you can focus on. Whether it's, like I said, if you get in a brake move and then you know that you've got to pull a turn, you know that you can or should hold a certain amount of power. That's the only time that you really want to pay attention to those numbers. Otherwise, it's all about holding the wheel. Exactly.
All about trying to draft, lick that wheel in front of you, because you do, like, On Zwift, yes, there's a massive draft effect. You save about 25%. In the real world, you save about 50, like 55%, I would almost say, like half the effort of sitting on the wheel of another rider. You've got more experience in this. How do you, like, how would you weigh Zwift versus real life drafting?
Okay, so in the Zwift world, if I was to do most of the races around 52 an hour, so power-wise, I'm probably producing around 30 to 40 watts more than what I would in an A-grade criterium. So that says a lot about drafting. And I tend to stay more towards the front of a race. I never really sit on and take it too easy. I like to get in amongst the front of the group and try to get into those moves. But there's definitely a significant amount of wattage difference between the two. But again, we don't have any freewheeling in Zwift, and you were mentioning that before with Pat Shaw about it's on from the go to the end. You do not stop pedaling. So
that's like, see, that the thing is, the question is that a good thing? I actually would say yes, because at the end of the day, this is a training tool. If you could freewheel, there would be no such thing as a Zwift effect, because everyone would just half-ass it out on course. Now you've got to work out, or you've got to do a social ride. There's no in-between. And that's why I love Zwift.
yeah, for sure. I agree. Yeah.
Man, could you imagine if you could actually freewheel? You would never, you wouldn't, like, races on Zwift would have to be 3 hours long to actually be an effort. They would have to be 2 hours long. Instead, now they're 1 hour and they're an intense effort. So really kudos to all the programmers who worked on this. Now, they made all these choices, like, with this in mind, and it turned out to be a great training tool. You've got to keep that chain tight, and you've got to keep turning, because otherwise you're going to get dropped off the back. And if you get dropped off the back, Anthony, just how tough is it getting back on?
Well, as I experienced in that final couple of kilometers of the race earlier on, that once you are off the back, it is the most difficult thing to get back on, because it does not. If you are solo off the back and there is a group in front of you, you really have to put the hurt on to get back on, because that bunch effect, that group effect, it just takes hold, and see you later.
I'm getting nightmares right now back to my first ever road race outside in the real roads. 5 kilometers in, I was dropped off the back, and I was putting out the most watts I could ever do. I was sprinting, but the group in front of me just kept sailing away, and I was on the drops sprinting, but I couldn't get back on. And that's the difference, ladies and gentlemen, between being in a group and not being in a group. And also when there's a really strong headwind, don't get dropped, guys. It's a dumbest decision ever, but it's good fun. I mean, I hope that people get incentivized from all this racing in the virtual world to go outside. I mean, if these guys have these watts, they may be commuters. They may just be like training fanatics that don't really enjoy racing their bike, but after going on the eCrit, after doing Zwift racing, they're like, I'm going to give it a shot outside. I hope they do that at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a confidence booster too, because a lot of people are, a bit fearful of racing, getting into the race scene. So, if you are sort of new to the scene, definitely jump on Zwift and give it a go. And, you'll see your numbers increase, and you'll be able to challenge yourself up against other competitors from all over the world. And definitely give you a confidence boost to then, translate that out into the real world.
And if you do go outside, don't be discouraged if your first race is not a success, or your second, or your third for that sake. It takes time. Like in the real world, and outside world, it's not only watts that make the difference, it's the race cunningness. You've got to take the turns, you've got to find the apex, you've got to draft the wheels, you've got to save as much energy, but you've got to be well positioned. There are some aspects to racing that is yet to be picked up in the eCrit and the Zwift world that are outside very essential. Like, if you're racing a tight circuit and there's 1 lap to go and you're sitting 20th position, you can forget it. You're never going to move up further than that. But in a Zwift race, you're just going to ride right through him because, man, you are an immovable object. You're just going to make way. It's good fun.
Yeah, you got that ghost effect.
Yeah. But these are things you don't think about. We got 5Ks to go, guys. We will not miss the finish, but it's slowing down a tiny bit. But I will never forget, I did the Tour of Flanders Sportive with a Zwift friend of mine who lived in Belgium. He was the strongest guy I've met in a while, but he just couldn't descend, and I still can't descend that well. He comes down after doing the Koppenberg, and there's a left-hand turn. His mind freezes up because he's going 60 k's an hour, and instead of turning left, when people just go straight and they think, this is my life now. And you can just see him fall over the handlebars and go face first down. You may be the strongest rider in the world, but if you can't descend, if you can't turn, ouch. He's okay, by the way, guys. It's on video. It's good fun.
Very, very lucky. Yeah, for sure. Because some people don't come off that lucky. But yeah, there's a lot of different aspects of riding a bike. That's for sure. It's not about just having raw power.
It's about having the aero power-ups at the right time, the featherweight power-ups.
That's right. We're seeing featherweight power-up getting used right now. Probably hoping to pick one last power-up, hopefully an aero, in this run through the finish line.
Do you usually go into the race with your desired power-up, whether it's a featherweight or an aero, or do you just hope for the best in the race?
Okay, well, as of last week, I think you were discussing about like starting off a race and having the right aero,
Yes.
having the right power-up before you start the race. I tend to sometimes go off a bit of a flow week by week to know that I've had a bit of bad luck this week, so maybe next week I'll have better luck. And so if I start off with a bad power-up, but I think it's going to be a good week because I've had bad luck in the previous week, that I'll leave it. So last week, and actually even tonight, I started off with a draft boost. And I started off with the draft boost and I left it at that because I thought, well, if I'm starting off with the draft boost, I may not get that later on. So I used that early and ended up getting an aero power up, and I held on to that for most of the race.
Nice. Smart choice there. But I know when I used to race on Zwift, I would enter the race with an aero power up and just say, I'm going to keep it. If there ever comes a point where I have to use this, I'm not going to win the race anyway because I'm going to be so dead. But if you're in the pointy end of the race, if you're at the very, very finish and you have that aero power up, you have a shot of winning. If you don't, you're fighting for minor positions.
Yep, for sure. It's such a powerful power up, and we get time and time again we see people really stretching the limits of the power up, the aero power up, and using it from crazy distances from the finish line, and it pays off. It pays off.
What is your stance on power-ups in racing as a general? I know this is KISS racing, meaning keep it simple, stupid. Everything is allowed, pretty much. What is your stance on this?
Well, I mean, ever since I started racing on Zwift, I've pretty much always competed in the KISS races. I have dabbled a little bit in the other events, but mostly KISS. So I'm used to using the power-ups. It's second nature for me now. But I'd still like to see what would happen without them, because as we know, if somebody has an aero power up in a sprint that is not really that good of a sprinter, they could beat a stronger sprinter. So yeah, I mean, it has its good points, and it is a fun thing to see what the outcome and how it plays out and pans out. But also, as far as I'd say raw power, like rider versus rider, sometimes it may not be the real strong rider winning that race due to that power up.
I think from a personal perspective, to get some sort of random element in the game that, I mean, outside you've got the win and all these factors I was mentioning earlier, to have that power up element, it adds a bit of spice. It's a bit of, you know, salt and pepper on top of your food. It just gives it another feel to it, which I really do enjoy watching. And because without power ups, it tends to be a bit dry. It tends to be a bit cutthroat, where everything is as you see. Whereas with the power ups, suddenly, I mean, Pat Shaw is not guaranteed to win from a breakaway in case the other guy's got an aero power up, or Luke Ockerby can be beaten because Savatsky has the aero power up. So it's really, you can always guarantee yourself the best possible odds by entering the race with an aero power up. But if you play the dice and you don't get it, I mean, that is your choice. It's tactical decisions, and I do love that extra element of decisions that to be made that can either win or lose you this. Because if you enter, remember, if you enter with the aero power up pre-race, you cannot pop and power up at any point of the race if you want to keep that to the finish. So you're limiting yourself by not limiting yourself technically. So it's fun. It's good decisions.
Yeah, it is definitely a fun dynamic, especially if you don't get the power up that you want. You can yell at the screen and get frustrated because you know that you're coming up to that final lap and you didn't get what you wanted. So you know, that's all fun. That's things that adds to the game for sure.
Oh,
I think
Anthony.
They're coming up.
Now we know where the finish is, ladies and gentlemen. So there's about 1.5 kilometers to go now. They're going to go down this straight road. Anthony probably is having PTSD about this moment right now, because this is where Jesper goes, oh, 1K to go, everybody start sprinting, and they did. We're going straight down, they're going to turn left, and then there is a sprint finish banner where they will sprint for the finale now. Ruba Walsh is going on to the attack now. So we've only got 4 Australians in the bunch right now. Ruba Walsh, Ciano, actually Hoskin is in there as well, Bates and Simpson 4 riders in the bunch. Ciano's following Walsh here. Now they've got kilometer point 2 all the way down here to the left. Do you think this is going to stick, Anthony?
I don't know. I mean, he's got a bit of a gap here. It's still a fair way out, so he's going to have to really put some power down right now. I mean, again, you've got that bunch effect. That group is going to really start to bring that back as quickly as possible.
He's going for it, though. Rupert is going all out. I mean, remember, guys, Anthony is pretty much qualified from the Eastern Division, and he's now watching some of the guys he's going to go up against in the Western Division here, so he's getting some insight into how some of these guys race. But Anthony Ciano has now bridged across to Rupert Walsh. Behind is John O'Bates. We've got Ben Simpson, who already raced today in the Eastern race. I think his legs might be feeling the effect of that, but we're going to have a heads-up battle at the front here between Walsh and Ciano and Bates. Just slowly behind him, but they're trying to reel him back in. The heart rate is now coming back up for all 3 of them now. Ciano's virtual character actually taking a beat on board there. Totally calm and collected going into the sprint finish. So,
yep.
Here we go. Now it's all neutral again. Ciano's putting down the watch. He's laying it down low. Walsh is sitting in. Bates, all 3 back together, Anthony.
Yeah, yep. So they're not too far out now. They're going to have to really start getting positioned now and getting themselves ready for the big move, because it's about to get lit up.
Oof. We've actually got Rouse in here, a new rider as well. Ciano again, he's playing that, he's doing these shimmies. He's really known for doing this. Going on to the attack, kicking it back down just to see if anyone else is following it. And this time he's doing it again, 8 watts per kilo, and then straight back down. I wonder which trainer he's on, because that is not easy to do on some of the trainers out there in the world. So he might have a smart trainer that can really respond to the resistance he's putting down. But you can see the finish is on the left side there. That is the finish line. They're going to go down and turn left, but usually they're going to keep it late. Ciano actually has that aero power, but he's going to pop it now, Anthony. He's going to go early. 10 watts per kilo. Is anyone going to react to this? This is an early attack, but you've got to respond to this. Anthony said earlier, if you get dropped at this point, which Anthony did in the earlier race, there's no getting back on. Bates, Simpson, they've all got aero power-ups here on the left. But Ciano with the early lead of 5 seconds is going to turn this corner, and it looks like he's going to be the man to take back-to-back victories here in the Western Series, Western eCrit. Ben Simpson is in here. We've got Hoskin, actually. He races in the B category tonight, but he's actually going to take 2nd place, it looks like. Tonight's flat course suits him fairly well, it looks like, and he's going to come in 2nd place. Further behind, we've got a fight for the finish. Ben Simpson, John O'Bates, John O'Tired Legs, Rupert Walsh. We've got Bates and Walsh. Bates and Walsh. It's gonna be Bates. Ciano first. Hoshkin 2nd, Bates 3rd, Walsh 4th, Ben Simpson 5th, and the further riders down below. Anthony, you're going to be racing against these guys. What are your initial thoughts seeing this race tonight?
Yeah, I mean, not having experience racing against these guys, so they're going to add a whole nother dynamic into the finale, which is going to be fantastic. Everyone's got their own ability and their own strength and weakness, so it's going to be interesting not knowing their strength and weakness, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Wait and see. Anthony, from the depths of my heart, thank you so much for saving me on this one. You made this broadcast what it was. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed tonight's broadcast, if you're rewatching this right now, put in the comment section below, tag Anthony Porsche and say thank you for jumping on and sharing some of your thoughts. The Western guys, Ben, Rupert, Cook, the rest of you guys, you're going to be racing against Anthony most likely come the 23rd of September. So, now you've heard some of his wisdom. Maybe you can turn around and use it against him. I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of scouting. Anthony, anything you want to say here on the falling rope?
Oh, I just want to say thanks for having me on. It was fantastic to watch the broadcast and be a part of the broadcast. And hats off to the guys that raced tonight. They gave it a good dig. And we'll see you next time.